Hey guys and gals, it's Steve here from A Different Chick Farm. If you don't know, it's the first time seeing our videos. We are a certified organic produce farm here in the heart of East Tennessee, Johnson City. That's the Washington County area. We're close to the Bristol Motor Speedway. We are just northeast of Knoxville, and we're near Kingsport, Tennessee also. Not far from Abington, Virginia. So, thought I'd jump on here and talk to you about some stuff that's near and dear to our heart and has been for a long time. Considering the current state of this across our nation and the phone calls that we are getting on a daily basis and sometimes an hourly basis, depending upon the day. On the weekends that we get more phone calls. During the week it's a little more sparse. Saturday I couldn't tell you how many phone calls I took, but it was a lot. Best way to communicate with us is always text message or email. Phone calls only work if I've got the phone beside me. And Saturday I happened to, because I was sitting here seeding. But let's talk about chickens. Let's talk about chicken math on a serious note, not on the joking note. So the thing going of chicken math has always been in the chicken community is, if you want 3, 6 you will have. And if you get 6, well then you got to have 12. If you got 12, why not 24? If you're going to have 24, shouldn't we just go ahead and make it 50? So, chicken math is a real thing. That's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about egg pricing, egg availability, the bird flu, the cost to raise your own chickens. So, I'll start off by saying that it almost is never cheaper to raise your own eggs at home, to raise your own chickens for eggs. You're not really raising the eggs, you're raising the chickens to get the eggs. But we don't do this as we're homesteaders on a loose side of that term. We're not quite where we want to be yet, but we're working toward it. We got 6 acres here, 5.73. And we can't do everything here. I wished we had more, but anyway, we'll get back to that in another story. So, the math I'm going to share with you at the end of this video is going to show you the reality of raising your own chickens. Now, here's my full disclaimer. I think you should raise chickens. I think everybody should have chickens. To me, the scary part of the current egg situation, and I'm not scared because we have chickens. It's springtime, so they're picking up on their laying. We got new layers coming online, so we're going to be close to 4 dozen a day, maybe in the next week or 2. We've already broke the 3 dozen mark, I think, once already, and we had 9 small eggs this morning, so that's a sign of new layers, since most of our breeds lay medium to extra jumbo eggs. And so those 9 small ones are normally young layers. And in case you don't understand, when your hens first start laying, they will lay a smaller egg. Not that small, but a smaller egg. And then as they pick up, they will lay a larger egg. So, some breeds get a lot bigger on their egg size, some get a little bit bigger. We're going to talk about that. Before we get into the math, let's talk about that, because I think you should raise chickens. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list of chickens, but I thought I would review some of the common information for some of the breeds that we have raised, and this is by no means all the breeds we have raised. We have been accused of being chicken freaks. At one time, we probably had 45 breeds on the farm. Most of them would have been considered rare to ultra rare to nearly extinct breeds. But we thoroughly enjoyed it for a long time. But we cut way back. That being said, we're getting back into it a little bit more. We've been adding breeds, so if you need chicks or hatching eggs, give us a holler. Check our website out. It's a differentchickfarm.com, and we offer hatching eggs that we can ship all over the country. Our egg laying hatching eggs are available most anytime during the year, not always, but most anytime. And we got other breeds that are available on limited basis. You are pre-ordering when you purchase on the website, meaning that they may or may not be here ready to ship. We may be waiting on the chicks to lay the eggs. Prime example is right now our cream crested leg bars are sold out for the next 2 hatches. So we're almost 2 months out on having any cream crested leg bar eggs or chicks available. They're just popular. We're building our flock up this year, so next year we'll have more of them available. We knew this was going to be a problem coming into this year. I just didn't know it was going to be such a problem because of the egg shortage. Now, don't freak out on this egg shortage. Most likely, we can't guarantee, it's going to fix itself. So it just takes time. Bird flu is a real thing. Don't care what conspiracy theory you got. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Bird flu is a real thing. Now, I can't say all the birds that's been put down need to be put down. I can just tell you that it's a real thing. And we don't want to lose our whole flock because of it. Okay, so this list is going to sound alphabetical, but it's not. It starts alphabetical, and then I start jumping all over the place. And this is probably about, I don't know, half to 2/3 of the breeds we have raised over the years. Some of these we really had special spots in our heart, and some of these are back on the farm already because we, even though we may have sold them and got rid of them, we have bought them back since then, and we're raising new flocks of them. And there's some we got plans of, and there's a few we got plans of that are not on this list because we've never raised them. So time will tell. So we're going to talk about egg production and egg color, because usually that's the primary thing you're looking for. We'll touch a little bit on feed consumption because that makes a difference. And for us, cool factor makes a difference. I don't want a boring flock. That's why I don't have white leghorns. They're pretty birds, but they're boring to me. Maybe you got a different opinion, but I think they're boring. So, Barnevelders, had them for a very brief time, so I'm not an expert on these. They lay 150 to 200 eggs a year, and they lay a dark brown egg, so that's one of the cool factors of them. Now they're getting down there, that 150 to 200 is down there close to what I consider not really a good egg layer. Once you drop under that 180 mark, I consider that more of a pet than an egg layer. Yes, it's still laying eggs, but you're going half the year without eggs and half the year with eggs. So that chicken, at a best case scenario, is only going to average, best case scenario, is only going to average an egg every other day. And you're still feeding them on the days they don't lay. Now keep in mind, you don't get an egg every other day. You'll get several eggs during this time of year. Sometimes they may even lay 6 a week. But they're probably going to take off in the winter. Some breeds take off longer in the winter. Some breeds, after they molt, take the whole winter off. Some breeds, after they molt 30 days, they're back to laying. So keep that in mind. The molts, when they lose their feathers, if you don't know what that is, they regrow feathers every year, so they'll lose their feathers. They'll look like they're diseased and horrible and awful, and you'll just be like, my chicken, what's wrong with it? It'll look like a chicken exploded in your run that time of year. Barred rocks, we still have. Barred rock is a great bird, wonderful egg layer. They lay a high quality egg. It looks beautiful. It's a brown egg. They lay 200 to 280 eggs a year. Now, my experience with barred rocks is the production ones will lay closer to 280, and the heritage breeds are in that 2 to 240 range. The production side are not as high quality bird, but you'll get more eggs out of them. So it's all what you Bielfelders, wonderful. Oh, and all these so far are dual-purpose breeds, meaning they're good for meat also. Not that any chicken's not good for meat. It's just that some of them have so little meat on them, it's almost a waste of time. You just don't want to fool with it. And white leghorn is one of them. Leghorn, in period, don't have much meat. That's what makes them great egg layers. They don't eat as much. Bielfelder, large bird. They're auto-sexing breed, which means that at hatch you can tell the difference between male and female if you got a quality line. They lay 200, 230 eggs a year, and you think, wow, well, that's the one I want. They lay great egg production, and they're a great meat bird. They're a large bird, going to get a lot of meat. Yes and no. They eat a lot. So it takes a lot to get, we're going to discuss that a little bit more later. It takes a lot to get eggs out of them because they're going to eat a lot more food. But it's still a great breed. And if you're looking for a good dual-purpose breed, that is a great one. I don't knock it at all. We thoroughly enjoyed raising them. Don't currently have them. May have them in the future, but I don't have them right now. And they lay a brown egg. Black Australorp. We raised these early on. Probably was one of the first purebred birds we brought onto the farm. And they are great egg layers. If anything, I would say these numbers I'm getting ready to give you are conservative, but they're the numbers the industry puts on the Black Australorp, and they lay a brown egg also. Now, there's different shades of brown, so understand that. So Black Australorp is rated at 200, 280 eggs a year, and I would definitely put them up close to that 280 and even to 320 eggs a year. They hold the world's record. That meaning there was one hen back forever ago that laid, and I'm going to get this wrong, 366 eggs in a 365-day period. That's amazing. And like I said, 280, 300 was our experience with them. We didn't keep an exact count, but it was not uncommon to get an egg every day for every hen that was in the coop. It was just, they laid some eggs. Great breed. Not as great for the dual purpose side. They are thinner, so you don't get much meat. So it's one that I would recommend pressure cooking and then taking the meat and doing something with it. That's another video though. Blue Americanas. Now, this will be in general for most Americanas. It's not going to be exact, but similar. So Blue Americana is going to be 180 to 200 eggs a year, and that's about par for the course for an Americana. That's about what they're going to lay. And the Blue Americana lays a blue egg, and that's what you should be consistently looking for in the Americana line. If you're getting green eggs, you don't got an Americana. Okay, blue laced red Wyandottes. We currently have those. We're currently breeding those, so we'll have hatching eggs for sale. I've got a hatch promised out, so we'll have hatching eggs that we can probably ship in as early as a month. So blue, and I say blue, wow, did I say Americana? Blue laced red Wyandottes. I think that's what I said. I get confused. Anyway, that's what we're breeding, and we'll have eggs available soon. They lay 180 to 260 eggs a year, which is good. The 180's not as good, but the 260 is great because they're a good average sized dual purpose bird. They got enough meat to enjoy, but yet, and they're they're beautiful hens, and that's going to play for most of the Wyandottes, and they lay a brown egg also. Brown Leghorns. We had 3 of these at one time. Other than they're super flighty, which means they just bounce off the walls. They're 220 to 300 eggs a year, which is great. They're a white egg. If you like white eggs, that's fine. We try to keep just a handful of white egg layers on the farm. And there is some white egg layers that I'm really fond of the breeds. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're no good for meat. Buff Brahmas. Okay, we raised several Brahmas over the years. I'm only touching on the buffs. They lay 200 to 280 eggs a year, and I'd say that's being generous. Most of mine was that 200 mark, and it takes them forever Remember, you're looking for those first eggs. It takes them forever to get to that first egg. I had lavender laced light Brahmas, no, not laced, lavender light Brahmas that would be similar pattern to a Coronation Sussex years ago, and it took 11 and a half months consistently to get the first egg out of a hen. So you're going to feed that bird for a year, and they eat a lot. They're big birds. So keep that in mind. Brown egg. Buff Orpington. This is going to be similar for most Orpingtons except for English. English changes the game. So Buff Orpingtons are 200, 280 eggs, and you get brown. Great dual-purpose bird, good temperament, great bird. Can't knock on an Orpington. Unless it's the English. English I could knock on. We won't get into that on this video. I love the English, but I could knock on. Cuckoo Marins, 180 and up. And they lay a very dark brown egg generally. Very dark. Cream leg bars. They lay blue eggs, and they're 180 to 200 eggs a year. But they're a smaller bird, so they're not no good for meat, but they don't eat as much, so it can justify that 200 eggs a year because they don't eat as much. And it's a blue egg layer. Who doesn't want a blue egg layer in the flock? Alright, Freedom Rangers, they rate them at 200 eggs a year. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't raise Freedom Rangers for eggs. I raise them for meat if I raise them, and we're not raising them at all right now. But and they lay a brown egg, but you know it's a meat bird. They eat a lot. They grow a little faster. So they're a nice in between for what you're going to buy in the store versus a heritage breed bird. So it's a nice, comfortable in between. Golden Comet. We have raised these. I'll probably never raise them again. 250 to 320 eggs a year. Great egg layers. Brown eggs. Pretty decent temperament on the hens. But they have a tendency to get egg bound. And I got another one on the list that's going to be that way too. I don't like dealing with that. I like low maintenance. Jubilee Orpingtons. So this is probably referring to the Jubilees and the Lavenders are probably English Orps. They didn't specify this on the list, but this is about the right egg production. 150-ish and up. We found that the Jubilees laid a little bit better than the English Lavenders and the Lemon Cuckoos that we had and modeled, and we had a serious English Orpington problem at one time here on the farm. Probably had everything you can imagine. We had the red English Orps, and we had some English Orps. But it seemed like that the Jubilees did better, the line that we had, than most of them. So they were probably closer to that 180 mark, where some of them probably was closer to a 120 mark. So it all been. Loved our Lemon Cuckoos. I wish we hadn't lost that line. Lost them to a predator. So that was a great one. Mottled Houdans. We tried Houdans several times. I couldn't keep them healthy. So we gave up, and they're about 150 a year, and they lay a white egg. Olive Eggers, very popular with people. We've got a few on the farm. They're nothing special. We've just intentionally crossed one breed with another breed to get the colored eggs that we have. So Olive Egger is 180 to 200 eggs a year, and that's definitely a rough figure. It depends on how that Olive Egger line was designed. And they lay an olive colored egg. Red Sex Link. Red Sex Links are 200, 280 eggs a year, light brown. I've had less trouble out of them getting egg bound, far less than I did out of some of the other ones. So we're okay with Red Sex Links to boost the number of those light brown eggs that you get, light to medium brown. So I'm happy with them. We got just a handful on the farm. That's just to keep egg numbers up. You got to have a balance when you sell eggs. Rhode Island Reds. Rhode Island Reds are a great bird. They're good foragers. They're beautiful. They'll lay 200, 280 eggs a year, and they lay a brown egg. Rhode Island Reds, if they have a disadvantage, is the roosters will get a bit cocky. So they can be a little bit aggressive if that bothers you. Doesn't bother me. but it can be an issue. Salmon Faveroles. We raise these for a brief period of time, maybe a year. 180 to 240 eggs a year, and light brown in color. Absolutely stunning birds. They're just beautiful. You can't say enough about them. Speckled Sussex. So your Sussex lay 180 to 240 eggs a year, and light brown colored eggs. White crested blue Polish. We actually had a white crested lavender Polish, but similar. They rate them as a poor egg layer and white eggs, and I would agree. I would say that the egg laying on them was probably 80 a year. That they were pathetic. And white leghorns, 220 to 300 eggs a year. Now, the production leghorns is a little bit different, and they're definitely seeing 300 and up on them. And they lay a white egg also. White rocks, wonderful dual-purpose bird. We've raised those on multiple occasions, and they're 200, 280 eggs a year and a brown egg. So, just a real comfortable breed to raise. White breast. We are currently raising the white breast and the blue-black splash breast, and we'll cover them both here together because they're very similar. So you're looking at around 250 eggs a year, and I find that consistent. Some places rate them as low as 200, but I don't find that accurate on the first few years of life. They slow down after that 3-year mark quite a bit. And they lay what's considered a cream or light tinted egg, so they're a very light brown, creamy tinted color. So they're not white, but they're not what I would call full-blown brown. They're really in between. Large eggs to extra large to even sometimes you'll get a jumbo out of them. So they're a great egg producer, but where they shine is they're an amazing meat bird. The flavor's great. I haven't eaten a blue-black splash breast yet. We got one to process right now. And we're raising some more up, so that's a new breed for us, but we've always loved our white breasts. So that's a good one if you want a good dual-purpose bird on the farm. They'll eat a little bit more than your than your regular production birds, and definitely more than just a flat-out egg layer like a leghorn. But if you're wanting something that you can get both out of, that's a good one to go with, is the breast line. Swedish flowers. We love these because they're beautiful. We love these for the quality of their egg size and the look of their eggs. They lay a light brown egg. They're rated at 150 to 200. I would have to say we've had pretty consistency of 200. There may be some lines out there that are only 150, but we've really been real consistent at 200 eggs. And we don't keep an exact math, but we can do a rough figure on them. Black copper marrons, so 150 to 180 eggs a year, some of your darkest eggs you'll ever see. They're these beautiful, almost mahogany, dark, almost blood red eggs in the high quality lines. Now, you won't get that in a lower quality line. We don't raise show quality black copper marrons. We do throw a few in our pen every now and then for egg color, and we love them. We just don't raise them. They eat a lot of food. Don't lay a ton of eggs, so it's just not one for us. 55 flowery hens. We've raised these, love them. 200, 250 eggs a year, white egg, beautiful birds, gorgeous, stunning. Don't eat a lot of food. They're active. They forage. A little bit flighty, but not too bad. Just a wonderful bird. Can't say enough about them. Ayami Samani. This is your, if you know much about chickens, this is black. They're black inside their mouth. They're black on their feet. They're black in their bones. The meat is black. Black feathers. It's a black bird. We only raise these for an extremely short period of time. We just couldn't get past the black meat. Let's just face it. 100, 120 eggs a year, and they're tinted in color. Horrible egg production. Not a great meat bird. It just wasn't for us. Basque. Now, I don't know what the egg production is on the Basque hen, but I wanted to put it down here. You may know. You can comment below if you know. But we enjoyed our Basque hens. They did lay good eggs. I just don't know what the production was. We raised them for about a 2-year period. Seemed like we always had chicks around. They're beautiful, great temperament, very personable chicken. They lay a tinted egg. Crevicores. Crevicores are a great meat bird, not a good egg layer. 100 to 120 eggs a year, and I would say that was consistent with what we got. There was never enough crevicore eggs. And that's in the end why the crevicore doesn't make it for us, is way too low of egg production. Beautiful, wonderful bird and great meat, awesome meat bird. And they're tinted eggs, or white eggs, not tinted, white eggs. Icelandics. Icelandics are 150 to 200 eggs a year, and they lay a white egg. Another great breed, wonderful eggs, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Light Sussex. So Light Sussex is 240 eggs a year, and they lay a tan egg, and that is a wonderful breed. And did I skip over? I bet I did. So Coronation Sussex is similar to that. You get a similar colored egg and everything, but the Coronation is a much cooler color. You have to look it up and check it out. We used to raise those. I don't know more. Wished I did. So tan egg, 240 eggs a year. Pavlovska. Now, this is probably one of the few breeds that I would keep because it's just cool. Because egg production's horrible. 70 to 90 eggs a year. 70 to 90. Yes, you heard me right. Under 100. And egg production's awful, but they're such sweet, beautiful, well-mannered birds. And it's a tinted egg. They're worth keeping for fun if you can afford it. Spitzhabens. This is probably the only breed that I wouldn't consider a pet. The Pavlovskas would be a pet. That I would have the Spitzhabens just because of how the cool factor. They lay 150 to 180 eggs a year, so they're below my egg production standard. Technically, they teeter right there on it at the 180 mark, and they lay a white egg. But they are such gorgeous birds. We had 3 colors of them, and they're just stunning. And then my last one on my list is Road Bar. So Road Bars are similar to a Rhode Island Red, and they are auto-sexing breed, just like the Bielefelder and the cream-crested leg bars are. And they are just good temperament, little bit high-strung like a Rhode Island Red, which is they were created from a Rhode Island Red, but they're auto-sexing breed. And they lay a light colored brown egg, a little bit variation in color, but wonderful birds. And they are good for dual purpose, even though they're a tad on the small side for dual purpose. You can get by with it. The breast meat's going to be real thin, though. So if you're a dark meat kind of guy, you'll be okay. All right. So real quick, let's wrap this up. Let's get to what we're talking about here. So we're talking about cost to raise your chicken. Now, I did not get into feeders, waterers, all that you got to have. If you raise them from chicks, you got to have a brooder or broodal men. It can be cheap or expensive. You got to have heat lamp bulbs if you got chicks. You don't need this for chickens unless you're living in an Arctic climate. If you're living in a cold, cold climate, get a bird that can handle the cold, cold climate. Don't get ones that are not cold hardy. Pick out the cold hardy birds. We may do a separate video on that on some of the cold hardy birds. But I didn't cover I didn't cover the coop costs. I didn't cover any of that because that stuff can vary so much. You can buy a cheap feeder or you can buy an expensive feeder. You can buy a cheap coop or build a cheap coop, or you can buy an expensive coop. So that's all in what you want, so that changes the game completely. We're talking about feed. We're talking about what it costs to feed. We're not talking about water. We're talking about feed, what it costs to feed your birds. All right. So it varies depending upon the breed, as we was discussing. So a full-grown rooster will consume 1/3 to 1/2 pound of feed per day. And a hen, because they're a little bit smaller, will be more like 1/4 to 1/3 of a pound a day. Now, some hens may consume a little bit less if they're on the really small side, like a production leghorn. But your larger hens, like the white breasts, are definitely going to be up there at that 1/3 of a pound or maybe a tad more mark. And same thing I say about the roosters. That white breast is right probably around that half a pound mark a day, but those Brahmas are eating more than that. So that's what I have had from my experience. Okay, so if we're looking at the hen side, because we're looking for eggs, roosters don't produce eggs. So hens at that quarter to 1/3 pound, we're looking at 1.5 pounds or a little more than 2 pounds of feed per week. Some of your breeds, once they get to around 3 years old, will be consuming about 2.25 to almost 2.5 pounds of feed a week. So we're going to rank that at 39 to 40 pounds of feed for 6 months, and that's assuming no waste. See, we're talking about consumption, not waste. We're talking about what they eat, not what doesn't get eaten. And chickens will waste, depending upon how your feeding situation is and so forth, whether you got a rat problem, which is another story, how much you waste. But chickens flick seeds, the feed. That's how they eat. They flip it. They'll make a mess. Some of them are worse than others. The type of feeder you use helps control that. You know, there's a lot of different things you can do to control the waste. But if you're throwing it on the ground, you're definitely going to lose some. Now, don't get me wrong. We throw some when we want them to start digging in an area because we rotate our chickens on the farm. Another story, we'll throw out the feed to make them dig. So it costs you a little more feed. So make sure you water them consistently. So back to our feed. So we feed New Country Organics, which is $37.50 a bag, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a 50-pound bag. So with the math that I just was talking about on the feed consumption, at that, we're looking at, it's going to take I'm going to need to get 38 eggs out of that one hen to pay for that 50-pound bag of feed. So you said, well, you just said it's only going to take 40 pounds. That's to get them to laying age. That 6-month mark. Not all breeds lay at 6 months. Now, white breasts will start laying usually around 5 months. Augsburgers will lay at around 4.5 months. But some breeds don't lay till 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.5 months. And there's some that go 13 months. But we went 6 months because that's a pretty decent number to work with. That's when they start laying. But remember, we need eggs, not one egg. If we did that, then your cost on that one egg is $38. So to recover that bag of feed and that $37.50, we're going to need technically 37.5 eggs at figuring your organic eggs at $12 a dozen. Most time you can find them cheaper than that. But pasture raised, like what you're going to be doing, organic eggs, we're going to figure them for sake of argument at 12. 10 might be a decent number too, but we're going to figure them at 12. We sell ours at $10.75, and I can tell you we lose money at $10.75. But we got them for more than just eggs. They're here to fertilize the ground. There's another video. Now, I went to Tractor Supply and looked at the absolute cheapest feed they had, and it was their Producer's Pride. And I can tell you this is not good feed. We've used it before, but we were organic certified, and every time I used it, the chickens got unhealthy, laid less eggs. It's not a good feed unless they've changed it in the last 2 years. So, $15.99 a bag, 50-pound bag. So you can see the price difference. This is why your organic eggs cost more. You're talking 2.5 times as much money to buy the organic feed. But now, just quality feed. But anyway, the Producer's Pride, $15.99, 50-pound bag. You're going to need 32 eggs if you figure those eggs at $6 a dozen. And I think it's a little bit on the conservative side for a farm fresh egg, but looking at grocery store prices and farm fresh eggs, this falls right in the middle. And of course, the $12 a dozen for organic falls in the middle, because organic eggs can be quality ones in the store, $8 to about $16 depending on where you're at. And farm fresh organic eggs are usually in that $10 to $18 range. I know 18's on the extreme end, don't beat me up, but there is places paying that. So I'm going to need 32 eggs if I figure those regular eggs, conventional, at $6 a dozen. So once that hen starts laying, you're going to need 32 eggs to recover what you fed her. By that point, she's eat another bag of feed. The good news is she's still laying. So, probably not a whole other bag of feed. She'd probably eat a half a bag of feed. I didn't do the math on that. So, back to what I said. Buying chickens is never, I'm going to use that word never, is most of the time not cheaper than buying the eggs in the store. We raise chickens because it's healthier for the land. We raise chickens because of sustainability. Right now, a lot of people are freaking out because of egg availability. They're freaking out because prices are soaring. My feed price is exactly the same last week or this week when I bought feed as it was when I bought it at Thanksgiving. We buy feed about every 2 weeks, and it's exactly the same price. It hasn't budged in 3 months. None. So my production cost on these eggs have not went up. Now, I'm still losing money, but it hasn't went up. Store prices have went up because demand is up and supply is down. Restaurants go out of business. Bakeries go out of business if they can't get eggs. So if price triples, they're still going to buy eggs. If price triples on eggs for you at home, you're going to buy less eggs or you're going to avoid eggs. I was kidding with my uncle last night, and he's talking about the store didn't have a whole lot of eggs, and what they did have was over double what they had been paying. And I told him, I said, if I get low on eggs, I just send my wife to go to the chicken coop and knock on the door. A little joke, but it's the truth. We're blessed. But it's because of sustainability is why we raise these chickens. Now, there's other reasons. That's for another video that we can get into in more detail, but it's to improve our land. It's for the fertilizer. It's for the thrill and the comfort of raising them and knowing that they were raised in a humane fashion. Knowing that we give them the best life that we could afford to give them within reason. You know, I can't put them up in a mansion, but we try to keep them a good, clean place to live. When their coop gets dirty, you clean the coop out. If they get hung up, you take care of them. You don't ignore them. So, guys, that's it. That's all I've got. Like and subscribe. I know this is a little bit of a boring video for some folks. And if this is not your cup of tea, I'm sorry, I apologize. But people need to know about chickens. Thank y'all.